Imagine this. You're standing at the cruise terminal, suitcase rolling behind you, passport in hand, already picturing yourself with a cocktail on the pool deck. And then out of nowhere, the agent at the counter looks up and says 4 words that hit like a punch to the gut. Sorry, you can't board. That's the nightmare nobody thinks will happen. You did everything right, at least you thought you did. Your passport's still valid, you showed up on time, so what went wrong? In 2025, travelers are getting turned away for reasons so random, they never saw it coming. The worst part? Cruise lines don't advertise these rules, but they absolutely enforce them. So in this video, I'm breaking down the hidden traps that can ruin your cruise before it even begins. Think of it as your backstage pass to what really happens at the pier, so you don't end up watching your ship sail away without you. Here's something many cruisers never think about. Your past can stop your trip before it even begins. And I'm not just talking about major crimes. Sometimes one old DUI is all it takes. Take Canada, for example. They're notoriously strict. One passenger booked an Alaska cruise that stopped in Victoria, British Columbia. Years earlier, he'd been charged with a DUI. Even though it was long in the past, Canadian immigration flagged it. The cruise line was notified, and he was denied boarding right there in Seattle. And here's why. Cruise lines usually check ahead of time. If a country on your itinerary won't let you in, the cruise line won't take the risk of carrying you to that port. Instead, they stop you right at embarkation so the ship doesn't run into trouble later. Canada isn't the only one. Australia, New Zealand, and even parts of Asia enforce strict rules around past convictions, which means if your record makes you inadmissible, your cruise could end before it starts. The good news is you don't have to guess. If you're unsure about your status, check the official government websites before you book. For Canada, that's Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. For Australia, it's the Department of Home Affairs. Many countries have online tools that let you confirm whether your record will be an issue. And if you do find a problem, that's when you contact an immigration lawyer or apply for a waiver well in advance. Because once the cruise line gets that no from immigration, your dream vacation is over before you even step on board. It sounds harsh, but yes, cruise lines can deny boarding over personal hygiene. The rule falls under what they call fit to travel. If the medical team or captain decides that your condition could affect the health, safety, or comfort of other guests, they can stop you before you ever set foot on the ship. This doesn't only apply to obvious illnesses. There have been cases where a passenger's hygiene or even a medical condition created strong odors that made nearby guests uncomfortable. It might not be that person's fault, but from the cruise line's perspective, their responsibility is to the comfort of thousands of passengers, not just one. The tough part is, if you get flagged at the pier, the decision is usually final. Being pulled aside in front of a crowd and told you're not fit to sail is the kind of embarrassment no traveler wants to face. So if you have a condition or concern that could raise questions, the smart move is to get ahead of it. Contact the cruise line's special needs department before you book, provide medical documentation, and get written clearance. Because once you're at the terminal, it's too late to negotiate. Here's a nightmare that isn't even your fault. Showing up at the terminal only to learn your reservation has been canceled. How does that even happen? In some cases, it starts when passengers overshare online. Posting a screenshot of your cruise confirmation might feel harmless, but that booking code is the first piece of information someone would need to tamper with your trip. Now, to be clear, most cruise lines require more than just the booking number. They'll usually ask for other details, like your name, date of birth, or email. But once that code is out there, it gives a bad actor a head start. Combine it with other bits of personal info that can be found online, and your reservation could be at risk. There have been cases where travelers arrived at the pier only to find their booking mysteriously canceled. The cabins were gone, the ship was full, and their vacation plans collapsed before boarding even began. The lesson? Treat your booking code like your bank PIN. Never post it on social media. Never share it casually, because even if it's rare, you don't want to hand someone else the power to erase months of planning with a single click. This is the kind of mistake that feels tiny, but can sink your trip before it even starts. One cruiser, booked months ahead, everything looked fine, until the passenger list hit customs. The system flagged him because his birth year was off by a single digit. That little typo couldn't be fixed in time, and he was denied boarding at the pier. And it's not just birthdays. One wrong digit in a passport number, a missing middle name, or leaving off a suffix like junior or senior, any mismatch can trigger an alert and stop you cold. What most travelers forget is that it's not just your cruise ticket that has to match. If your itinerary includes a country that requires an electronic visa, like an ESTA for the US or an ETA for Canada, every single detail must line up with your passport exactly. One wrong letter or number, and the system will block you automatically. At that point, the cruise line can't help. The smart move? Proofread everything the moment your booking confirmation hits your inbox. Double-check names, dates, passport numbers, and travel authorizations against your passport. And don't stop there. If your cruise line has a mobile app, review every detail in your check-in profile too. A mistake in the app is just as risky as one on paper, because once embarkation day arrives, it's too late to fix typos, and the only thing you'll be checking into is a ruined vacation. This one is brutal because you can hold what looks like a valid passport in your hand and still get turned away. One couple learned that the hard way. Their passports weren't expired and all their visas were in order. But the stitching in the booklet had come loose. Customs flagged it as damaged, and just like that, their trip was over. And damaged doesn't just mean a torn cover. It can be something as small as a visible ink stain, a ripped page, or a photo that's faded or peeling. Even a tiny defect can be enough for immigration to say your document is invalid. Names are another minefield. If you've gotten married or divorced and your booking doesn't exactly match your passport, middle names, suffixes like junior or senior, the system will flag you. Families face extra hurdles too. For kids traveling with one parent or relatives, many countries require a notarized consent letter from the other parent or guardian. And on closed-loop cruises from the US, a birth certificate is sometimes accepted instead of a passport, but it has to be the original, not a photocopy or a scan on your phone. The tricky part is that what one country lets slide, another might treat as a deal breaker. The only safe move is to inspect your documents like a hawk before you leave. Make sure every page, every detail, every supporting paper is solid, because once you're at the pier, it's too late to argue over a smudge of ink. This one shocks a lot of people, being told you're not fit to sail. And sometimes it's not about something serious at all. Take the passenger who showed up with nothing more than an allergy cough. She wasn't contagious, felt completely fine. But at the terminal, the medical team stepped in. And that's key. It's not just a check-in clerk making this decision. Most major ports have doctors on site, and if they decide your condition could pose a risk, their call is final. Her boarding pass never printed, and her vacation was over before it began. It's not only coughs that raise red flags. Recent surgery, visible illness, or mobility issues tied to other health risks can all trigger concern. And in some cases, cruise lines require documentation up front. Pregnant travelers, for example, often need a doctor's note after a certain number of weeks. Some lines also request fit-to-travel certificates for passengers over 70, just to make sure they're cleared for a week or more at sea. The reality is, cruise ships aren't floating hospitals. If something goes wrong offshore, medical help can be hours or days away. That's why the rules lean conservative. So if you've had recent health issues, are pregnant, or you're over 70, don't gamble at the pier. Get a doctor's note before you leave, and keep it with your travel documents. It may feel unnecessary, but it could be the one paper that saves your cruise. Here's a rule that surprises a lot of people. Just because you're old enough to book a cruise online doesn't mean you're old enough to actually sail in your own cabin. Most of the big North American lines, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, Princess, MSC, Set the minimum at 21 if you want your own stateroom. And if you're under 21, you need someone at least 25 sharing the cabin with you, unless you're married or serving in the military. Now picture a group of college friends booking a spring break or graduation trip. They've paid in full, bags packed, ready to celebrate. But at check-in, the IDs come out and suddenly the cruise line says no. The group's entire vacation evaporates before it even starts. There are exceptions. Royal Caribbean lowers the minimum to 18 on sailings outside North America. Virgin Voyages is adults only and allows 18-year-olds to book freely. But Carnival and Norwegian? They stick with 21 everywhere, no matter what. The twist is that these rules aren't universal across the industry. Smaller luxury lines and European river cruises sometimes set their own age limits, some lower, some higher, depending on the itinerary and market. So before you book that celebration cruise, don't just assume. Pull up the official policy on the cruise line's website for that specific trip. Because the last thing you want is to learn at the terminal that you're technically too young to sail, even after you've paid thousands of dollars. Here's something most people never think about. What you wear can actually affect whether you board. In parts of the Caribbean, like Barbados, Jamaica, and Antigua, camouflage clothing is strictly illegal for civilians. It doesn't matter if it's a t-shirt, shorts, or just a little camo trim on a hat. That print is reserved for the military, and local authorities take it seriously. The twist is, you might be stopped before you even reach the ship. Port staff and cruise line security often flag passengers at the embarkation terminal if they're wearing prohibited clothing. You could be asked to change right there at the pier before you're allowed through security. And it's not just camouflage. Cruise ships themselves have dress codes, especially in family areas and dining rooms. If your outfit is judged offensive, overly revealing, or inappropriate, staff can ask you to change. Refuse, and you could be denied entry to venues, or in rare cases, even removed from the ship. The lesson? Before you pack, check the clothing rules for every port on your itinerary. What's fine at home might get you pulled aside at the terminal, or worse, stopped by police once you're ashore. Better to swap that one outfit at home than to have your vacation start with a lecture at the pier. So you've finally made it on board. The music's pumping from the pool deck, the drinks are flowing, and you're ready to kick off vacation mode. But hold up, there's one last hurdle before the party really starts. The muster drill. Now, a lot of people think they can sneak past it. They hide in their cabin or slip off to the bar, figuring nobody's going to notice. But trust me, the crew always notices. This drill isn't optional. It's required by international maritime law, and the cruise line has zero wiggle room. Here's what happens if you skip it. First, your name gets called over the loudspeaker. Then crew members start knocking on cabin doors, and if you still don't show, they deactivate your cruise card and escort you off the ship. No refund, no excuses. Imagine standing on the pier, luggage in hand, while your ship sails away without you, all because you didn't want to sit through a 15-minute safety briefing. The trick is to treat the muster drill like the most important appointment of your trip. It takes just a few minutes, and then the fun really begins. The bars, the buffet, the pool, they'll all still be there waiting for you. So don't blow your cruise before it even starts. Show up, get it done, and then get back to vacation mode. This one stings because it's completely out of your control. Just like airlines, cruise lines sometimes oversell their cabins, or a stateroom gets pulled out of service at the last minute. Maybe a pipe burst, maybe the AC broke, maybe they simply sold more rooms than exist. Picture it, you've checked in, you're holding your boarding pass, and then staff pull you aside. Sorry, your cabin isn't available, and the ship is full. It feels unreal, but it happens. Most of the time, the cruise line looks for volunteers willing to move their trip in exchange for compensation, future cruise credits, cash, or an upgraded room on another sailing. But if no one volunteers, some unlucky passengers can get bumped involuntarily. And that's when knowing your rights matters. A smart move is to look up your cruise line's official compensation policy before you even book. Some lines guarantee a full refund plus generous credit, others offer less. If you know the policy in advance, you're in a far stronger position to negotiate when things go wrong. And once you're at the pier, don't accept the first offer on the table. Push for the best deal you can, whether that's cash back, upgraded status, or credit for a future sailing. The cruise line wants a quick solution, but you don't have to settle for the bare minimum. This one doesn't even hit until after your cruise is over. A passenger sails, something goes wrong. Maybe a shore excursion gets canceled. Maybe the onboard credits never show up, or the cabin isn't what they expected. Instead of resolving it with the cruise line, they go home and file a chargeback with their bank. The money comes back quickly, and it feels like a win. But to the cruise line, that chargeback looks like fraud. They delivered the vacation, and the payment was reversed. And cruise lines don't take that lightly. There have been cases where travelers disputed thousands of dollars, only to find out later they'd been quietly blacklisted. The next time they tried to book, the system rejected their reservation. Some even received letters from collection agencies demanding repayment. So while a chargeback might feel like an easy fix, it can end your relationship with that cruise line permanently. If you've got a billing issue, fight it directly with the cruise line. Escalate to corporate, put everything in writing, and get it resolved that way. Because one quick win with your bank could mean no more cruises with that company, ever. So there you have it, 11 hidden traps that can ruin your cruise before it even begins. And the wild part? Most of them aren't the obvious ones, like an expired passport or showing up late. We're talking tiny typos, old records that come back to haunt you, even the clothes you pack in your suitcase. The good news? Every single one of these can be avoided with a little preparation. Double-check your documents, know the entry rules for your ports, and protect your booking info like it's gold. A few minutes of prep can be the difference between sipping cocktails on the pool deck or arguing at the pier with no ship in sight. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen someone denied at the pier? Or maybe it even happened to you. Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if this video helped you, hit that like button so more cruisers see it. And don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes cruise tips the cruise lines never advertise. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on board for the next adventure.